Good morning.
Hi there.
Oh, can we hear her? Good morning. Okay, we can't hear her on the system. All right, can you hear us, Liz?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me? You can't hear me?
Yes, we can. Oh, and Todd went ahead and introduced you, so we're ready when you are.
Hear that echo? Sorry.
As soon as I turn off my sound, it should go away.
Okay. Great. Well, hi, everybody. It's great to be with you today. Great to have the opportunity to thank you all for everything you're doing. Sorry that I'm not able to be with you in person, but we're getting ready. We're organizing ourselves, getting ready for the organizing meetings of the 117th Congress. We have, I think, tremendous amount of good news on the House of Representatives side. Looks like we'll pick up at least 11 seats for the Republicans in the House. And although are not going to be in the majority, we are absolutely going to have a strong minority. And if just one sort of metric for people to follow, when we began organizing in the 116th Congress, there were 11 or 15 Democrats who voted against Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. 11 of those Democrats have been reelected and will be coming back. And if they again vote against her for Speaker, she won't be able to be Speaker because the minority is so small, she cannot afford to lose all of them. So we're in a very good position. And I would not be surprised if she is no longer Speaker. She made a lot of promises to her members about where we would be politically. She made a lot of promises to them about the size of the majority, and none of her promises played out. So we're in the process of watching them begin their process of trying to organize and decide what their leadership will look like. In terms of the committees, we defeated Colin Peterson, who for a long time has served as chairman of the House Ag Committee. And I anticipate that we'll certainly have another Democrat as chair if they keep the majority, which it looks as though they will. But again, we'll have more seats on the committee. We'll be in a really good place to be able to, I think, force them to legislate in a bipartisan manner. We also have seen the retirement of Mike Conaway, who was the Republican ranking member of the House Agriculture Committee. And so we're watching sort of that process play out over the course of the next several weeks. The steering committee in the House will be looking at making decisions about ranking members for those committees. The other thing that we're very focused on is looking at what's going on, obviously, in the presidential election. And with respect to the presidential election, there's a process underway now whereby the president's legal team is bringing challenges in court as the states count the votes, as the states, in the case of Georgia, undertakes a recount of those votes. And that process is playing out as it should in the legal system, where challenges to any of those results can be brought and where the president's team can provide evidence. And at the end of the day, those challenges will play themselves out. So we're watching closely to see what happens there, obviously. And watching in Georgia at the same time, we have 2 Senate seats that are in runoff. And those runoff elections will be on January 5th, and those will be very important. I think we have a very good shot at getting both of them, but it's going to be a real battle. I think that you're going to see unbelievable amounts of money poured in there, but because ultimately the control of the Senate could rest on those seats. If we do end up with a Biden administration, we will obviously have our work cut out for us in terms of doing everything that we can to ensure that we continue to protect some of the regulatory reforms and changes that we've seen, that we've been able to put through. That's another reason why it'll be so important to keep the Senate. I'm really thrilled to welcome to Washington Cynthia Lummis as our new senator. Of course, we're going to really miss Mike Enzi and the leadership and the guidance and advice that he has provided to the delegation. But Cynthia, having her come back in and certainly with her experience with respect to the ag community in particular, nobody can fill Mike's shoes, but Cynthia has served our state well for many years, and I know she and John and I will be a great team working on behalf of Wyoming and Washington. And we're going to continue to do that, continue to make sure that we can protect the gains that we've made and stop some of the most dangerous policies that the Democrats have laid out. A couple more things I would say on COVID and on looking at whether we're going to get another COVID relief package. I think that there are several things that many of us have talked about before that are bipartisan in terms of what people want to see. They want to see an extension to that December 31st deadline so that people are able to, continue to take advantage of and the needs that are out there, not feel like the money is absolutely got to be out the door by the 31st. So we're looking at ways we could include language that would help to move that deadline. We know there's a need for additional PPP, so I'm hopeful we'll be able to get that done. And again, I think, one of the reasons that we saw such gains in the House, I think there are a couple of things. One was certainly Joe Biden's comments in the second presidential debate about ending the energy industry. And I think those comments reverberated. We picked up seats and held seats in Texas, for example, that we were worried about. But when people understood and heard from him directly what he was planning to do with respect to fossil fuels, it did help us to hang on. And I think it sent a message, excuse me, across their membership in the House and the Senate of the limits in terms of the American people aren't going to stand for some of the most radical policies they've proposed. So one of the other messages from this election, certainly for the Democrats, and we've heard it from them in the House, was how important it is to provide relief as we begin to make progress towards vaccines with respect to the CARES Act. The news about the Pfizer vaccine, I think a lot of people were, paid attention to it. It got a lot of coverage, maybe not as much as it would have if it hadn't been in the middle of our presidential election process. But it is really tremendously good news. And you're going to see, I think we've already seen at least one other company announce similar developments with the vaccine. I believe that the first doses of the Pfizer vaccine will be available before the end of the year, and that those will likely go towards populations that are at highest risk. And there's no question but that Operation Warp Speed that President Trump and his administration put into place provided the investments that are going to be really crucial to distributing that vaccine. Through Operation Warp Speed, and Vice President Pence played a key role in this as well, the administration really said, we know we're going to get to a vaccine and we have to be able to distribute it as soon as we do. And so they did, they undertook a process that's been unprecedented in terms of investing in the distribution piece while the testing was going on for the vaccine. And so we're going to begin to see the results of that play out here. And look, if the vaccine continues at 90% effective, I mean, that's incredible. Many vaccines, they're 60% effective or 70% effective. This one seems to be 90%. And that is really tremendous news for everybody. So I'm hopeful that will begin, or will continue to move on the path it's on, and that we will be able, over the lame duck session over the next several weeks in Congress, to be able to pass legislation both to continue to fund the government and to ensure that we can get whatever additional relief is necessary with respect to COVID before we get into the new year and really begin to see the vaccine get out there. So let me stop there. And I think we're going to do some questions, but I really do want to thank everyone for what you're doing. thanks so much for all of your efforts. I know it's been a really challenging year, and nobody has felt those challenges more than you have. Nobody has come through more than you all have. And I'm very proud and honored to represent you, and really look forward to seeing everybody in person. And I'd be happy to take any questions people have.
We do have one question for you.
Okay.
It's in regards to executive orders. What things do we need to be worried about that Biden could do with executive orders?
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. It's important, and he has put out a list of the things that he anticipates moving on at the beginning of a potential Biden administration, and none of the things that he's listed are things that most of us would support. He says he's going to re-enter the Paris Climate Accords, for example. He would like to re-enter the Iranian nuclear deal. I'm sure that they will look into executive orders with respect to things like fracking on public lands. We'll have to fight many of the same battles that we fought during the Obama administration, if that's where we are. And I think it's gonna be a fight. There's no question. But having a very large minority in the House and ensuring that we keep the Senate will certainly be important to making sure that we can fight those and battle them. And whether you're talking about land use policy, whether you're talking about any of the regulatory reform or the Clean Power Plan, any of those things that you saw the Obama administration put into place, and you watch President Trump be able to roll them back, I think we've got to be concerned that that's exactly what we're going to see again, unfortunately, with the Biden administration. Anybody else?
It looks like you stunned them into silence.
Uh-oh.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much.
Greatly appreciate it.
Having me. Take care. Bye.
Oh, we had a last minute question.
Okay.
We have a question out of Sweetwater County wondering if you have any indication who the next Speaker of the House may be.
Well, it's a very interesting question. I think Nancy Pelosi would clearly like to be Speaker of the House again. She's going to have a difficult time getting the votes to be Speaker because she'd already lost about 15 of her members at the beginning of the last Congress. I think people will be even less likely to vote for her this time, given their poor performance in the elections. And so there's talk about other members of their leadership. People have mentioned Jim Clyburn, for example, from South Carolina, who is their current whip, as a possibility. He would be the first African-American Speaker of the House. They also Hakeem Jeffries, who is their caucus chair. I think that on their side of the aisle, that's about fifth in their leadership ranks. They're both possibilities. I think there are many possibilities, and I think what we're going to see the Democrats go through over the course of the next several years, and it'll really be spotlighted and highlighted in the coming weeks, is a battle between the wing of their party that represents sort of the moderate view and people that manage to be elected in swing seats, versus the AOC and Rashida Tlaib and very far left socialist wing of the party. And what Nancy Pelosi has done over the last 2 years is let that far left wing really control things and control the agenda. And they are paying the price for that. The American people said very clearly in these last elections that, they don't want us to be a socialist nation. They don't want to defund the police. They don't want to abolish all private health insurance. I think if you look at the House of Representatives results, it was a real rejection of all of those things. And so the Democrats, they're going to have to struggle, though, because that far left wing disagrees that they were the cause of the loss. And so you're going to see I think a pretty big battle inside their ranks in terms of what the future holds. And I don't mind watching them fight with each other. So we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be interesting to watch. And she is by no means assured her speakership again.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for joining us, and thank you for everything that you do for our members, and especially for taking time out of your weekend to speak with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much.